Here we I wanted to look at this for a while. Finally get into it. I was like,
Where are you? I've been trying to reach you for 5 days. 5 days and nothing. Where are my kids, Frank? Where are my fucking kids?
okay. Why did she hang up like that?
It's a summer day, and you're out for an ocean swim. You take a breath. You head under.
Oh, that still like terrifies me when
It's beautiful at first.
because hold on.
You're in a whole
The first time I swam in the ocean, well, it wasn't really an ocean. It was Lake Michigan. I went out, ended up actually going out too far, and when I put my head underwater, well, I didn't put my head underwater, but I went down, and for some reason, all I could see was just blackness. I don't remember where it was at, but it was just like dark under me, and I know I'm fitting the stereotype, but I don't know how to swim. Uh, well, I can dog paddle, but for some reason in deep water, even like a really deep pool, like I've been in pools where it's like it goes down like about 10 feet and something. Like I've been in people's personal pool, right? They have you go down like 10, 12 feet, stuff like that. And for some reason, I just start sinking. Even though like I kind of know how to keep myself afloat, but for some reason, when the water gets deeper, my body just like, yeah, it's time. I'm just turning to fucking Wolverine. I just sink. And I remember that happened. I don't remember how old I was. And this was before I moved from Chicago, so I had to be 12 and younger. And all I remember seeing was just like black under me. That happened another time when I was in what was it? Was that in Florida? I think it was Florida. No, it wasn't Florida. It was somewhere because Florida. I put my head under fucking water, and it was salt water, of course, because it's fucking ocean. And my eyes, I opened my eyes like an idiot. I started burning like crazy. And I can't remember where I was at, but it was like I remember getting close to like an edge, and all of a sudden, because I would go as far as I could feel my feet, and I was like on my tippy toes basically, and then as soon I started feeling like something like it was like that, and it started declining, and my feet were like coming off of it, and I was like, and then I fell back like in the water trying to correct myself, and I switched around. When I went under, I switched around, and then you could see it was like the ground was like this, and then it dipped off like that, but it was kind of steep, and you could it just looked dark, and that every time I see that, I just like I get out of water now.
new world. You keep going and going and going. As you come up for air, you notice the people behind you are quiet as nature's ambience has overtaken them. You just need one more look, though, and alas,
No, you
you
don't.
take one more plunge. But it seems that you may have had a slight miscalculation.
Ain't nothing to see. It is darkness.
As your eyes draw into focus, you realize that there's nothing to focus on.
Yeah, it was nothing
No
there.
floor, no fish, no walls. All there is a void of darkness,
Yeah.
a cold, endless abyss gazing back at you. There is nothing there but yourself, the water, and the vast unknown.
And that shit is terrifying. Like, I feel like I would be better there in a cave because at least I can see stuff. But it's like when I can, like, that shit, like, you can't see anything. You don't know what's coming up. Oh, man. Maybe because I used to have a horrible fear of height. I mean, well, I still have a fear of heights, but like a horrible phobia of the dark when I was a kid. Like, I didn't want to walk in dark rooms.
You know, it's funny. I've been trying to figure out for years how to put into words the existential dread I get from something as conceptually simple as the ocean. The immeasurable expanse that remains one of the world's greatest mysteries. It is painfully unsettling that our current knowledge of it is minuscule, rivaling that of the...
You know what I just thought of? I think it's like the opposite of like claustrophobia. I'm sure it's something like that. Where I'm sure it's a fear, where it's like a fear of like wide open spaces. Normally, I love wide open spaces, but when I can't see, cause I've been in places where I remember once I was in a field and it got dark. It was like an open field, and for some reason, it was like if I remember correctly, I think it was overcast that night, so you couldn't see any stars in the sky. There's no moon. It was just dark. And then this was in Mississippi, and there was no like if you go in the deep south, there's no lights, and it could be just pitch dark. It's like if you travel in the south, well, I guess he was some parts of the north, but I was down south with it. I was in Mississippi, and I used to like whenever I was outside of town, I would just cut. If I was outside of town at night, I would just cut my headlights on just to see how dark it was, and it just pitch black because there's no street lights. Except the only lights you see is usually at people's houses. They might have like a light installed where they garbage can is. I usually at the front part of their driveway, or most of the time it was all the way on their house. But then that house is like it's not like 30 or 40 feet away from the street. So like some houses, so you see they porch light basically, or they have like lights on around their house that are motion detected, and sometimes they'll be on, and you'll see that, but on the road like not. And I remember I was out in the field. We was riding 4-wheelers that day at my we call him uncle, but he's our cousin, well my cousin, and then I ended up staying out there until nighttime, and it was just pitch blackness out. Like it was so dark. Like you couldn't see. I couldn't even see my hand. My hand was like, I put my hand and touched my face, and I still couldn't see my hand. Like it was that dark, and it was the same type of feeling when I was in that water, and it was just darkness in front of me. I couldn't see because it's like it's a wide open space, but I guess it's the same, like same feeling someone who's claustrophobic. But I mean, people can be claustrophobic and still see their surroundings, but they're in a tight space. But it's like I couldn't see anything, knowing I was in a big field, and I can't fucking see. And I had to I rode that fucking 4-wheeler slowly because it was like a few dips in the ground where I guess the ground was eroding or something because it was just like the ground be kind of lumpy, and I would say it's a big like hole almost, like not a hole but like, well I guess like a whole like a small little cavern almost in the ground because I almost went over it when early in the day, so I had to kind of like navigate once I drive like really slowly to make sure I didn't tip over the damn 4-wheeler. Ended up getting out of there. And then when I got onto the little road on the side, I could see it was a street light all the way down, but it was hard to see because it was covered by trees and stuff. So if you were on the road, you could see it, but from where I was, I couldn't. And My dad was like, "Why you stay out so late?"
Moon, and even the planet Mars. Upon looking at the raw data, knowing that over 80% of this underwater abyss remains unmapped and unexplored to this day, drives home the gut-wrenching realization that we truly know next to nothing about what's actually down there. We know more about the surface of a planet we have never set foot on than we do about the ocean engulfing the vast majority of the planet on which we live. And to me, that implication is horrifying.
Well, there are
It's
a number
called
of
the
factors
deep blue for a
why.
reason, because it is incomprehensibly so. At just over 36,000 feet straight down, you can fit the entirety of Mount Everest with over 7,000 feet to spare. You could theoretically launch a jumbo jet off the bottom of the ocean's deepest point and hardly make it to surface level at its cruising altitude. And if you stack the Empire State Building end to end, you would need over 24 of them, one on top of the other,
I've
to
heard
reach
that. I
surface
thought it was
level from its
27.
darkest abyss.
Yeah, it's 24.
Thalassophobia is a concept that encompasses the fear of the ocean. Yet what it actually entails might mean something entirely different to you than it does to me. Some may fear the ocean's gargantuan, seemingly endless size,
Yeah.
or fear nature's unforgiving wrath,
Oh yeah. Ain't no way.
or fear becoming stuck within it.
I'll pause again. I had a job offer to like work on one of those things, and I just couldn't take it. They were offering decent money. They were like, "Well, you got to be out there for weeks on end and stuff like that." And I was just like, you're just seeing videos like that. And I remember seeing one where they were on a ship like that, like a cargo ship, and a wave came up, and they were like in a dining hall, I guess, and they had a big window. With some of the things, I'm like, I don't think they need windows. I mean, I get why they have them. Human beings, you kind of like to look out and see things, but when you're on a ship like that, you have waves, especially when you're moving. You have a wave that can just come over the top and crash, which is exactly what happened there. It came over the top and hit the glass, breaking it, and all that fucking water came in. And I was like, and I was just like, I don't remember what company it was, but I think I would have had to move down to I think they were out of New Orleans or Texas or something. And one thing, I didn't want to move there because I had just moved back to Chicago, and I was like, I don't want to move down there. And but it's just so about that. I don't really want to be on a boat. But I was looking at the money, and I was like, should I chance it? I mean, I don't know how to swim. So I guess the boat capsized. I mean, I guess they had life rafts or life jackets and stuff. But I was like, at the same time, I don't be out there in that ocean. Even though you know how to swim, you could still be stuck out there. And I just like, and then I remember seeing stuff like that. And I was, oh man. I was like, I don't know. I said, maybe I just find something close to home.
Or fear things that don't belong inside of it. Or fear what we found. Or rather, fear what we haven't.
Oh yeah, I've seen that thing. And like change shapes or
Much
something.
of what we think of when we imagine the ocean are visuals that we can logically comprehend. Reference points like coral reefs, the seafloor, and even sea creatures that share this world with us help us paint a mental picture that is coherent. In reality though, once you tread off the beaten path and veer over the continental shelf separating our world from theirs, what's actually
must
out
be a
there
horror rig.
is a seemingly infinite void and a macrocosm that we may never fully explore.
Had a job to do like underwater
All
welding
across the
too.
internet, we can find
And I was
troves
like,
of
nah.
video demonstrating the ocean's colossal scale. It's hard to put exactly into words, but viewing footage of divers like Jonathan Bird treading the fringe of safety and complete danger by venturing out and into what appears to be completely nothing.
See this shit like
will
I
never
mean,
not
I know
cause
there's
me
a
to
rock,
tense up.
or I know there's
There
like
is
land,
an
but
entire world below them. A world shrouded in darkness. A world ripe for discovery. A world with caves valleys, entire underwater oceans, and man-made relics, all just waiting there until the end of time.
Oh. Oh, I used to hate this. This Donkey Kong Country.
Since I was a child, thalassophobia has unknowingly held me with an iron grip.
Underwater sections suck.
And its feeling of constant
Every
tension
game.
as we explore a man-made creation ravaged by nature.
I don't care how short they are. I
Its
hate them.
cavernous gorge, infested with creatures unknown. And Tomb Raider, with its multitude of claustrophobic
I remember that, and
caverns,
especially when the
disorienting us
mechanics
at
suck.
every turn. It's funny because paradoxically, I have always felt that the soundtracks to these levels are beautiful, which oddly always counteracted the dread I got from having to endure environments like this.
Oh yes, was that
Perhaps it was the
Solid
fact that
2?
in these games, we are almost always racing the clock, lest we drown to death when our time is up. Or the fact that enemies always move faster than we do. Or maybe it's the lack of visibility, the darkness that shrouds us just feet away,
No, that's
depriving
me.
us of any ability to prepare for an impending threat. Or could it be the creatures, the monsters who call this unforgiving habitat home? In early 2022, a video game released encompassing every fear that I have ever had regarding the ocean. It's called Iron Lung, and you may have heard of it through my fellow creators
I
like
never heard of it.
Markiplier, Pyrocynical,
Oh
and
wait,
Jacob
okay,
Gunn.
now I've heard of this. Yeah.
The game puts us into the shoes of a convict, trapped in a world far removed from ours. At the game's beginning, we're told that, out of nowhere, every single habitable planet was demolished in a cataclysmic event known only as the Quiet Rapture. With this, the future of
Quiet
humankind
Rapture?
was left dangling by a thread, as only those aboard spacecrafts were safe from it.
Oh wow, that
For
sucks.
years, the remaining survivors have done what they could to jumpstart humanity, navigating the vast frontier that is the universe in search of any sliver of hope that a habitable planet remains out there. Guided by nothing but dying starlight, mankind is confined to the vast expanse of nothingness, left to salvage the scant resources left behind on a multitude of barren moons. But on just a handful of them, we find a strange anomaly. Oceans of blood that might be the key to unlocking the resources we so desperately need to survive. You and I are tasked with boarding a makeshift submarine
Of
that was not
course.
designed for extreme depth, navigating an ocean that is completely alien from anything we have ever seen or known, left to search for and photograph natural resources that may not even be down there. To add insult to injury, the submarine will be welded shut and the window reinforced with thick metal. A rolling method of navigation, a map, a rudimentary control system, a single camera, and our own intuition, guided by whatever sounds we may hear down there. For all we know, we may not survive, but inside the iron lung, at least we won't know what killed us.
It's funny that they do this, because I mean, it would. I guess they add that more sense of dread because of the Earth is gone. So, and a lot of other planets that I'm assuming in our solar system, that at least we know about, are gone. So we had the people who were already on spaceships, or I'm assuming this is an Earth where we have vastly better space travel, intergalactic space travel technology. So you probably have way more people in space than like we have now, obviously. And it's interesting because you could pretty much do this with on Earth, but of course, as that, like I said, that sense of dread because you can't go back to Earth because Earth is gone. So now you're going to a planet that could not be inhabitable. You may not be able to breathe the air or what have you. You may not have air. So it adds that to it. But then, of course, this is in the ocean. But like I said, you could kind of do this on Earth too, because it was like 5% ocean. They said 5% of the ocean been mapped out since I was a kid. They said we won't remember like 5% of the ocean, and we still say that today. So I guess people are like, yeah, I ain't going down there. But I mean, of course, it makes sense because you're talking about pressure, just like in space. Like I said, it may not be habitable. You may be on a planet that doesn't have atmosphere, but I guess you wouldn't even bother with that. It's like you're trying to jumpstart the human race again. Why would you go to a planet that doesn't have atmosphere? You might well just skip that. But even if you do go once, it has atmosphere, but it's like 60% methane gas or something, or it rains molten like rock or something. But I was just thinking it's similar to Earth, the same reasons. Like unless you be down there, you can't see as far as like your lights can show you. A lot of things they only have sonar. Like I was like, what's the point of putting like glass? Like I know humans want to see shit, but you adding something that could that alters the integrity of your ship, because now you got all this metal, and then glass. Like I don't give a damn if it's triple plated glasses. I like just have everything metal, and we'll have cameras outside, and then of course sonar. But yeah, I guess, like I said, it adds that sense of dread on another planet.
Beginning your descent. Cruising depth in roughly 40
At least on
seconds.
Earth, you can
Stand by.
just surface and then, hey, I'm fine. I'm on Earth. I need to get another wireless
I'm
mouse.
seeing some voltage
This is
irregularities in the instrument.
irritating
Keep an
me.
eye out for sparks or flames or anything like that. Approaching maximum depth. The hull's feeling it, but it's still holding strong. Closing port hole shielding.
I do not want to hear a dripping
You'll be at
noise
cruise depth soon.
in a submarine.
You're on your own.
I don't give a damn. Or it's normal. I don't care.
From the very beginning, we know this will not be simple. The iron lung flexes and creaks, seemingly reaching its limit under the crippling weight of the ocean. The radio cuts out, severing our only line of communication, and letters penned by previous convicts warn us of an impending fate.
So you a convict?
For the entire game, we're left to follow a map, adjusting our rotation as we blindly navigate this foreign underwater sea in hopes of taking pictures at each designated point. Interestingly, the iron lung is equipped with a proximity sensor to warn us when we come too close to an obstacle. And at first, it seems like a no-brainer. The ship is already cruising on its last leg, so any physical contact could spell the end of us altogether. As we make our way to each checkpoint, we're able to utilize a shoddy camera system to view the outside world.
He said prisoners. I'm assuming you're a prisoner. He put you on a submarine that is extremely subpar in order to help humanity. You would think they would send the best. I get it that you like, okay, we don't know what's down there. Sending our best people could be detrimental because they might get killed. So, but you're trying to find a way to help humanity. I think that, to me, that would be better, and the outcome be better than sending this rickety ass, rusted ass submarine that is literally falling apart with one convict. Well, maybe it's more because he was on the radio with somehow. They could be with the surface or whatever. But it seemed like he's by himself. And that could be because, some of these are probably indie games with like 2 or 3 people working on them. Some even have one person working on them. and it's just easier to do when they got so few people working on it. But just the logic, just I like that. I mean, but you see that in movies, like, oh, send this prisoner out there. You know, they send them out there first. But that's usually like when humans do that, like when we send dogs in outer space, or then we send like a chimpanzee or something in outer space. That was more gauging. Okay, if that thing can survive out there, it's probably okay for humans to go out there. It was more like an observation type thing. Like, okay, how's the radiation? What other factors come into play? Yeah, keeping this animal alive out there, and then we can judge. It's like animal testing. We test different products on animals before we allow humans to buy them. But in this situation, where you're like, okay, we need you to go down there because we are on the brink of complete annihilation. We need to find resources quickly. And we think this is our best shot in this blood red ocean on this planet. I think in a situation like that, you might want, even though you don't know what's down there, you might want to send your best people to try to find it, like actual scientists. And if you have those, like I don't know, I'm assuming everyone in space probably had some type of expertise where they were in space for a reason, no matter how, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? But like if they're in a situation in the future where it's normal for people to travel in space, you're more likely to have people who aren't experts in things dealing with space travel or mathematics or whatever that are in mechanics and stuff like that in space. You would deal with just regular people who go into like farmers or merchants or what have you, YouTubers. It just be a bunch. It'd be way more regular people once we get to a certain point. But it seemed more like they're at a point where there is more people in space, but the space travel has become a little bit more regular, but it's still being explored. So it's still mainly only people out in space that are experts in their fields, or at least, well, yeah, I say expert. I shouldn't say. There's only one expert. Everyone knows is second place. But they're experts in their field, so they're in space because of their expertise, not, well, I'm just traveling from one planet to another to go on vacation type thing. But it just seems weird that you, it's like, because I'm assuming, because you said that you find letters from other convicts, so I'm assuming you're a convict, and they don't want to waste, they don't have a lot of people, so they don't want to waste important human life, I guess. So they send convicts down there. They're like, what? But then at the same time, what's a convict doing in space? I had to play the game. Like I said, if you get into that point in space travel, to where now you have regular civilians just traveling, leisurely through space, and now, like, I'm assuming if he's a convict, they were taking him to some type of like penal colony or something on another planet to be like, oh, well, you on us, we have prisons on other planets. I imagine if they're doing that, he's already a prisoner. If he was a prisoner beforehand, he was in space at the time that the Earth was destroyed, then we have already crossed that threshold of now you just got regular people in space. So like I said, it must be more, like, because I was thinking at first, oh, it's hard, like just maybe a few hundred people. Like we at that point where everyone is pretty much expert in their field in space, and you're like a few hundred people out there at the time of the Earth destruction. But if you got prisoners out there already, you would think you would have regular people just out there too, like just people going on vacation or some shit, or maybe they doing like starship type cruises where you don't land on a planet, but you just cruise around in space and they come back, circle back to Earth. Like if you at that point, it could be millions of people already in space, you know.
And with intervals of just one single frame, we're left with nothing but grainy, black and white visuals that are more often than not completely inexplicable.
That looks
A corpse
like shit.
of a foreign giant. Unknown structures with monsters just out of view. Legs from what appear to be giant spiders.
Giant
And
crabs.
objects that bear no discernible shape.
That just look like light or some shit, like energy or something. I mean, I get they doing all this because it adds to the atmosphere. They're like, oh, it's a ship that's about to fall apart.
The lung comes interwoven within the very fabric of how it's played. We are confined to an iron cell, left with none other than the dread stemming from our own biases as our minds fill the blanks these grainy images leave for us. And on top of this, as we traverse this underwater hell,
And then shit starts falling apart, I guess. Like shit.
that proximity sensor sure goes wild, even when we're certain there's no obstacle anywhere around us.
Yeah, you were literally in the
Whatever is
cell.
out there is lurking, analyzing us for just the right moment.
Like, why you gotta be in a cell in a
cannot see
submarine?
We cannot prepare.
It's not like you can
and
escape.
We have no idea what it is around us. In a way, it's sort of poetic because it resembles the real world. Blood oceans upon vast alien moons aren't too far off from the concept of our own. And I think that's what makes Iron Lung so horrifying. Anytime we enter the ocean, we enter a habitat not made for us. We can't breathe. We can't hear. We can't see.
And that's why I don't go down there.
Tonight, I won't spoil the ending, so if you haven't yet experienced this game, please do, because it'll be well worth your time. The story is engaging and thought-provoking. The atmosphere is unmatched
I wonder
for
if it's
those
on
afraid of the deep.
Steam or
And the ending
something.
has a catch that will stick with you for a while.
Oh, place it
In my
fire.
opinion, Iron Lung is one of the greatest modern examples of thalassophobia portrayed through video games. And as an avid fan of Subnautica, that's sure saying something.
I think Subnautica is Subnautica is because I played a little bit of it. It's a little bit more fun. I mean, it could be scary and everything, but it's just more to me on the fun side than like meant to be a horror game. Like they did, like whoever made that didn't necessarily like horror wasn't the key element. It's more exploration.
Hidden inside the second chapter of Slug Girl, part of the horror world of Junji Ito collection,
Slug
exists
girl.
the story. The Thing That Drifted Ashore.
Okay.
It involves the tale of a mysterious object
Like a
that washes
giant
up on the coast of
centipede.
the Pacific Ocean. It's a creature completely alien. It's gargantuan, slimy. It's disgusting. On its face are massive cysts and tumors with small appendages emerging from them. And worst of all, it smells because it's rotting.
Worst of all, it was dead. That's a good
Nevertheless,
thing.
And draws a crowd in the hundreds, all eager to examine and preserve
I'm
this
like, it's
colossal
dead.
spectacle. Among the crowd, we encounter a young boy with an acute fear of the ocean. All his life, he's had nightmares of floating in the deep sea, surrounded by hordes of massive ocean giants. While out there, he meets a woman named Mie. She explains that 7 years prior, she had lost her fiancé in a ferry accident. No trace of him was ever found.
'Cause he was eaten.
Ever since, she's been afflicted with ocean nightmares, highly similar to the boys. As she's telling her story, though, the onlookers notice
Oh.
something.
Oh shit, it got babies inside of it. Oh, it's a bunch of humans.
The creature's skin has transparent spots, and on the inside are humans, entirely intact.
Oh my
They
god.
cut the creature open.
Damn. All this thing do is eat humans. He must have did this recently, because why aren't they decomposing? Or digested, I mean.
The people are still alive, and it's realized that one
What?
of them is BA's fiance, the one who went missing years ago.
How?
Shortly after, the bile-covered people begin to panic, crawling in all sorts of directions like inhuman monsters.
Some
As it
zombie
turns
shit.
out, they were trapped inside of this thing for years, living off it like parasites as it traversed the pitch-black deep ocean.
How did they become
And the dreams
parasites?
they had of the ocean giants larger than a school bus, or in actuality, what those inside of it were seeing all those years. Because of their confinement, every person recovered that day was officially declared insane. And the story ends pondering on what else might be out there.
Why did they mutated? They got claw hands and shit. How did they just become parasites? Living off the creature. You know, the
thing
creature
that
ate
drifted
them.
ashore is special because its horror is twofold. On one hand, we have an ocean monster that lives off shipwrecked human beings. Yet on the other, we have the visual of what they saw while confined down there. Grotesque, giant fish with massive eyes and appendages. Beasts capable of devouring entire human beings. And creatures beyond our level of comprehension. The ocean is uniquely fascinating because it's the one medium on Earth in which fact can meet fantasy. Ocean monsters can be thought into existence with hardly a way to disprove them within our lifetime.
Fucking
The
Leviathan.
potential of what could be overpowers our collective psyche as that curiosity may never be satiated. It seems that until the end of time, legendary ocean monsters like the Kraken, the Hydra, and the Leviathan will always fascinate us given our sheer inability to explore the habitat
Yeah, I
in
don't think
which
it's
they
anything that
Tales of
size.
the high seas,
That
of
the
tragedy by the
the
hands of
Cthulhu.
fantastical
Like,
beasts will persist evermore, fueling fans and fears of the ocean for generations to come. The thing that drifted ashore nails this mystique in the realm of legend, yet it plays on concepts entirely grounded in reality.
Ooh, I hate that.
Deep sea
Oh, I hate
giants are not fiction, and the condition of abyssal gigantism
I hate
is
this
in
picture.
actuality.
I've seen this picture. I hate it. I hate it so much. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about, like abysmal giganticism. It's like the space that you can't see anything. But I don't think creatures that big. I mean, we had the colossal squid, and then we said, oh, it's probably some bigger ones down there because we see like sucker marks on like blue or humpback whales and stuff, like they were fighting each other. And we've seen some really large squids, but I'm talking about like the ones, some of the what they talking about, they could be down there that we haven't seen. Like that they like the length of a football field and stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't know about that. Plus, some stuff that is so deep that once if it ever comes up to the surface, whether we go down and bring it up, or maybe it ventures up too far, so I don't know. But a lot of stuff can't live up past a certain point because they've adapted to the pressure down there. So they come up, just like us, that we can't live down there because of the pressure. We have to be in containers all the time that is pressurized. But even then, if you go too deep, the pressure could be so great that it could crush the thing that you're in. So we can't go past a certain point. We can send machines down there to certain points. But even those machines, some things just can't. It'll start because it's not used to that depth, that type of pressure. So some like a lot of stuff I'm not really worried. I know about like colossal squids. They're like, well, they probably could come to the surface because of their type of the type of bodies they have, like they're squishy and stuff like that. So maybe they can come up or they can adapt to both and to extremely deep pressures, and then the pressures above, or at least I said the lack of pressure above. But I don't know. I don't know about that. That's why I'm not worried about that. But still, I can't when I'm in stuff like this. I can't see, so I don't know what's coming.
The farthest thing from fantasy.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Dry as hell.
Around 3,000 feet deep, the ocean becomes cold, dark, and full of creatures inexplicable. In lieu of the octopi, dolphins, and vibrant ecosystems embedded within coral reefs, we instead find species exhibiting bioluminescence, bearing foreboding teeth, and riddled with a curious affliction: colossal size.
Well, I guess that's how they deal with the pressure. They had to be really big. I mean, things used to be big on Earth, on the surface too, when we had more oxygen on the planet. And then as we got less of this oxygen, they became smaller and smaller to adapt to that.
When we look at these photos, it's difficult to establish a sense of scale. The colossal squid alone looks relatively unassuming until you're given a visual comparison respective to a human. The oarfish appears like a minuscule.
Yeah, see, that's big, but like, it's not a football size
grow up to 36 feet long. Deep sea gigantism has created a plethora of monsters. Japanese spider crabs bearing 12-foot legs, deep sea isopods growing multiple feet in length, sea spiders up to nearly 2 feet long, anglerfish the size of humans, the bigfin squid
Anglerfish the
with
size of
tentacles
humans?
extending upwards of 26 feet long, and even creatures like the siphonophore, a floating amalgamation made of a colony of zooids chaining themselves together hundreds of feet in length. For over 90% of the ocean, sunlight is not able to penetrate, fostering an environment in which life like this needs to adapt to survive. A region known as the abyssal plain makes up 70% of the entire seafloor as we know it. However, because of the lack of sunlight, plants and vegetation simply cannot thrive down there. This, in a way, presents a natural conundrum, as the bottom of the food chain typically relies on flora for satiation. And so, this is where a phenomenon known as marine snow comes into play. Made up of decomposed organisms from above, on top of fecal matter, sand, and the remains of fish, most of the known deep ocean fauna rely on it as their main source of food.
You're relying on dead
With
things
this in
to
mind,
sink down.
it would
so
only
they
make
can eat it.
sense for creatures to evolve by
Or dead
shrinking,
particles.
as not only are they compressed by the ocean's sheer weight, but are also left devoid of solid meals.
Yeah, you would think that they'd be smaller because
As
of the
we've
pressure.
seen though, reality is quite the
Or they're
opposite.
like, nah, we get big. Some of us get bigger.
Kleber's law states that the larger an organism's mass is, the more efficient its metabolic rate becomes. This notion results in
that a-
colossal,
what a
highly efficient sea
angler
life
shark? Is
lurking
that what
within
that
the
is?
ocean's darkest depths, waiting and grazing for their next meal.
Oh, I've seen that.
I would be
fish.
remiss,
Oh.
however, if I did not state that these are mere postulations, as the phenomenon of abyssal gigantism is still being studied. Because of the historical impossibility of exploring the deep ocean, much of how sea life survives down there is entirely unknown. Alongside this, it's believed that over 91% of the ocean species have not even been discovered, compounding with the already extraordinary statistic that the vast majority of the deep blue remains completely unseen by human eyes. Up to this point, everything I've shown you in this video has fallen within the mere 9% of creatures we have seen. Now imagine what we haven't.
There's something that just they can't come up because they're so used to the pressure where they're at, they can't rise to the surface. So you'll probably never see them. Unless we can make something that can deal with the pressure down there, then it can send something down there. But I don't think humans will ever be able to go down there in anything. At least nowhere in our lifetime. Maybe a few more generations, but if we last that long, but a meteor don't take us out. We don't start World War III or 4 or 5 or 6.
It goes without saying that the ocean is treacherous, yet that hasn't slowed those eager to explore it. The allure of underwater caves, blue holes, and ocean cliffsides make for an experience both riveting and spiritually fulfilling. However, it's unfortunately fairly common for deep-sea dives to go awry.
No, it isn't. That's why I don't do deep-sea dive. I don't know how to swim. This was a dive.
On the 28th of April 2000, 22-year-old Yuri Lipsky geared up for a dive within the Blue Hole in Egypt. Known as one of the most dangerous diving locations in the world, traversing this environment is no small feat. One of its standout features is its underwater arch, a massive 170-foot tunnel resting 164 feet below the surface and extending 85 feet in length. It's been reported that the Blue Hole...
I remember reading something about this, like the Challenger Deep and the Mariana Trench and stuff like that. Like they're really dangerous for people who aren't experienced divers because people get confused when they go so deep, and instead of they thinking they're coming up to the surface, they're actually going down deeper, and then they end up running out of, because people wait until they almost out of oxygen, they end up going too deep, and then they realize it too late and try to come back up with this, go back the opposite way. But they don't have enough oxygen to get to the top, and they can't hold their breath for that long. So,
is deceptive, appearing to be much shorter than it is when you manage to get down there. Alongside this, it bears areas with strong down currents, making for a physically grueling experience.
Oh yeah, I heard that
When inside,
just have down
depth and
currents.
oxygen monitoring are a must. Yet Lipsky, fully aware of the risks involved with such an intensive dive, maintained optimism in his physical ability.
Yeah, I've heard people say they stay close to the walls, like those things, so you can judge. Like, okay, well I gotta turn back vertical and go straight up because I've been going down this whole time.
At 5:03 p.m., Lipsky embarks into the depths. Contrary to standard procedure, he attempts this dive not in a group, but alone. For the first 2 minutes, we can observe Yuri swimming parallel to the surface,
you definitely know this
bellies over the deepest point of the blue hole.
That does
He then
time
begins a slow
stamp.
controlled descent before he begins releasing air from his BCD,
That's at
or
2000.
buoyancy compensation device, in hopes of sinking faster.
I would say, why do you want to sink faster? But I guess he's trying to see how deep he can get, because he only has so much oxygen, so he can't be wasting too much time trying to descend. But you don't want to descend too fast, I guess. Well, he knows. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. You can't ascend
At
too
this
fast. You
point,
can't descend
his
too fast.
regulator begins to work harder to supply Yuri with the increased amount of oxygen he's taking in, evident by the numerous wheezes we hear throughout this footage. By now, he is descending rapidly, likely more so than he realizes. And soon after, the alarm from his dive monitor sounds, signaling that his depth is reaching a critical level.
I'll be like, it's time to turn around, buddy. It ain't getting this world record is not worth it. He's because it always sounds they taking deep breaths too. They're like this person died or something. Yeah, they sound like they're struggling.
Yuri is now over 270 feet below surface, signaling a multitude of inconvenient truths. The oxygen in his tank is quickly becoming toxic. His buoyancy is dwindling, and an effect known as nitrogen narcosis is plaguing him, instilling a sensation of complete drunkenness.
Yeah. Why would you? That's what's like. You don't go that deep. Like as soon as people start feeling that stuff, they need to go up.
At 5:09
And they're like,
p.m.,
that's the cutoff.
Yuri approaches the bottom of the blue hole at over 300 feet deep.
But you always get somebody. I needed to see if I could do better.
His BCD in hopes of returning to the surface.
And then they end up fucking dying.
It's entirely ineffective, as the downforce of the ocean negates any semblance of buoyancy. This realization appears to cause him to panic, because his tank is now empty. He's disoriented.
Yeah, and he don't have the strength because he can't have any buoyancy to help him, and he don't have the strength to put himself back up. Plus, he's suffering from nitrogen. What is it? Nepsosis. Well, I can't say. Like so now he feels drunk. Like he's disoriented. So now you gotta descend slowly. At least, if you're gonna descend quickly to the certain point and then stop whatever you're doing to make you descend that fast. So to the point where the last person did it, and then start to descend slowly to try to beat that. If you're just trying to beat that person's depth, but clearly he was going way too fast. Like, he didn't realize it was a problem. He was like over 200 feet down. Then he dropped. He's 300 feet, like. And you experience that, you know what's gonna happen. I don't know if that's a rush.
He met his demise in one of the most dangerous diving locations in the world.
Damn.
He embarked to set a personal record to achieve a depth that he had never before seen.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yet in that pursuit, lost his life to the grueling conditions of the deep blue.
It's about competition.
Since the incident,
I'm competitive too, but damn, I ain't that competitive.
However, the same can't be said for a multitude of others that have met the same fate. Online, you can find footage of divers discovering the...
Because like it's not about exploration anymore and discovering things. Now it's about, well, this person did 150 feet, so I need to do 200 feet. And then it's just about, I'm better than this person. Like, you didn't really discover anything or find any new animals. Or like, I don't know. This person might not be a scientist. They're probably just a free diver. Not a free diver, but they're just a diver trying to do a personal best or just a best on the whatever scale. Like, oh, this person did 100, like I said, 150. Now you're trying to do 200. But you know what happens at a certain point. And you keep descending too rapidly. Like, you should have kept an eye. Like, you should have been looking at that thing to know, like, okay, if 150 is the deepest anyone has been, I need to be checking to see when I hit 150. And as soon as I get close, not even when you hit 150, when you hit like 140, 130, whatever you are doing that is making you descend quickly, because he's trying to hurry up and get down and then probably turn back and go back up because he's like, oh, I did it. You need to be looking to see, okay, I'm close to 150. Now I'm going to slowly get to 150. That way I can slowly start descending and get past that, But if you he didn't even look. He said he was over 200 feet. He said, when they showed him first look at his little monitor to see how deep he is, and then you can hear him like he's panicking, and then he said he went like another 100, or he went down over 300 feet. So I'm like, dude, you should have been looking at that the whole time. Especially you an experienced diver, you know what happens to the human body when you go that deep. Like you know what happens when people tell you, this is what happened to me when I was at 100 feet, or this is what happened to me when I was 150 feet. And you know when you get past that, you know that shit is gonna happen. But now you discover new stuff. It could just be this stuff happens, but now the deeper you get, it happens faster, and the effects are worse. And then you, like I said, you get what is it, nitrogen psychosis, whatever. And he said you feel drunk. So now you deep, you lose buoyancy. You also getting pushed down by the current. So now you get all this working because you don't have the strength. You don't have the I guess mental faculties to swim back up because you feel drunk, you disoriented. The current is pushing you down. Also, you're losing more buoyancy the deeper you're getting, and you don't have the strength to push yourself back up. So not like I said, like people they so competitive. They're not taking their safety into account, and it's all about just beating the next person. And like he said, but how many people have died doing shit like this? Like I get it, you being competitive. I'm competitive to a point. Like I'm not. When it starts, like okay, you can literally like destroy your body doing something like this. Like, I'm competitive, but if this person wants to do that, push themselves to a point where they either die or they fuck up their body. Like, you know what? They made of something I'm just not, and that's just it. I can respect it. Hopefully they maybe one day the government to give them free health care because like, hey, you pushed yourself to this point and you made our country look good or whatever, that we hold a world record or something. Your reward is free health care. I'm fine with that. Me, I'm just not made like that.
Remains of their counterparts, with their gear still intact. And it's haunting.
This sound like when people
specific divers did not dive.
It sound like when he's talking about, he said they find people with their gear and stuff to attack. When people climb Mount Everest and they find people like just on the walk path, they're like, don't mess with them, because you will end up getting yourself killed trying to move. And that's why people don't go up there and try to get their bodies and nothing. It's like, and people start using those bodies as like waypoints, like how high you're getting. It's like
in that specific spot,
what it is.
Their remains may have never been found, forever confined to the pitch black crypt that is the deep sea.
That would definitely make me turn around. I see a dead body, I'm like, yeah, this ain't worth it.
Humanity and the ocean have a bizarre relationship with death.
Whoa.
Superstorms leveling entire cities.
Damn.
Gargantuan waves rocking man's largest ships like a bath-time toy.
Yeah, shit like that.
And rogue waves that emerge from nowhere, destroying even the largest and safest of oil rigs. To this day, remnants of over 3 million shipwrecks exist on the seafloor, with thousands upon thousands of massive man-made objects accompanying them. Much like the remains of divers, these relics imply and signify
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of ships, especially old ships
of an environment we had set out
that
to
was
tame,
sunk
and an everlasting
in war
token
times.
of failure. There's an interesting subset of thalassophobia called submechanophobia that delves into the very specific fear of encountering these relics in the wild. It's this primordial repulsion caused by the crippling uncanniness of an object that does not belong, compounded with the lack of any ability to determine its true size.
Somebody freaking out seeing a
Photo
ship
and
down
video
there.
of the Titanic,
Yeah, I was about to say, that's Titanic.
of forgotten animatronics, of ancient relics, a massive anchor,
Oh,
or
wow.
sunken airplanes. And the interior of shipwrecks are effectively fueling a newer, more recently discovered phobia made possible by the rise of cameras able to document them.
I mean, that makes
But it
sense.
isn't always abandoned structures, though, as video, like this one,
Whoa. Is that underneath the ship? Oh, that's a ship, like actually moving. I thought that was. I was what I said. Is that a sunken ship? Why is it not on the
also
ground?
exemplify this phobia in its purest form.
Ooh, that's crazy. I'd be more
For me
afraid I'm gonna get
personally,
sucked into the
submechanophobia persists
propellers.
because of the total inability to fully see an object as it truly is. Like we touched on earlier,
I
our
guess he
minds
was
are hardwired
clearly
to
far
fill in
enough away.
blanks with what could be, and more often than not, we achieve this with the most horrifying possible outcome.
Damn, what the
On
fuck
land,
is that?
fog is always seen as a mood setter for the strange and mysterious.
Yeah, because you
And
can't
inside
see.
the darkest confines of the deep blue, perhaps we can see this idea at work here too.
Cause I've been in some thick fog where it was hard to see my hand. Like I like this. Even that's kind of, especially when you driving, it's like whew, slow down to like 10, 15 miles an hour.
It's hard to find the words to conceptualize the fear of the deep in just a single YouTube video, as there are so many ways we can and have taken it. Whether it's the fear of sea life, or its infinite size, or how dark it is, or how much we truly don't know about it, or its capability of devastation, or its grip on human life. One thing has and will always hold true. The ocean is fucking horrifying. It's an unforgiving frontier harboring some of the most harrowing life and environmental enigmas.
Well,
on the
yeah,
planet.
because we out of our element.
It is and always will be
It's
one
like
of
a-
life's great mysteries.
This is a.
An entire world we share, yet know so little about.
It's like when you see animals on land, like you see lions. They don't just play around in the water and shit like that. They know there are things in the water that will kill and eat them. So when they jump, usually lions don't really like water anyway. But when they have to, you got to cross to get to the other, to get across the river or whatever, they jump. If you ever look at any nature channel, they jump in the water and immediately start swimming as fast as they can across. Because they know, well, one thing, well, let's say we don't know everything that's in the ocean. We know about sharks and stuff like that. And people are afraid of like a blue whale just happened to be in like a school of fish and just happened to swallow us or something. But like lions, the animals know. Like, you see a bunch of animals that do shit like that. They jump in the water and they try to hurry up and get across because they know what's there. I think it's an instinctual thing because we've adapted where we're not like you could be a decent swimmer, like a leopard or something like that, or a jaguar that just jumps in the fucking water and eats attacks like caimans and shit. But or it swims down to the bottom and gets fish because they're excellent swimmers. But even then, they don't just stay in the water just swimming all the time. They go, when they're hunting, they go in there. But even then, they look at, okay, this is a younger caiman, like a jaguar. This is a younger caiman. I can handle this. But caimans can get like 10 feet big, like 10 feet long and shit. So like, we don't fuck with them. We gonna get them when they young, and they only like about 3 or 4 feet. Or 5. We can manage that. But it's just because if we were able to see, we wouldn't have a problem. We were able to swim quickly. We wouldn't have a problem. But it's you can't see. This is not our environment. everything else is adapted to be able to be in this environment so they can swim faster than you. They can see farther than you because they have to be able to, or what have you. Some things are just fucking blind and they don't need to see. But everything else is heightened, you know. So I mean, it's a instinctual fear of that as well because we had not. If we were adapted to it, that'd be different. You know.
Vast majority of the planet, yet completely uninhabitable by mankind. Throughout history, it's been said that the moment you enter the ocean, you enter the food
That's
chain.
just my 2 cents. I don't know what the fuck
Yet,
I'm talking about. Don't
contrary to
listen
how
to
it
me.
is on land,
Oh
in
wow,
their
that's
world, in their
kinda
vast
cool.
abyss of darkness, humankind is nowhere near the top.
Yeah, that's true. That always drives me. I mean, not drives me crazy, but it really fascinates me. I need to stop drinking doing these things because my word, I'm trying to think of shit. My brain's like, no, no, no. But when I see like creatures eating something like that, they show all those things like eating, taking whatever they can off the bone. I always find that fascinating. I saw something recently where something had died. It looked like a fish, like a pretty decent sized fish, like probably about this long. And you could see it was on the floor of the ocean, but it was up high enough where you could kind of see sunlight coming down. And everything just descended on this thing. Like at first it was like eels, and then they did a like a they played at like twice the speed, so it was moving real fast. And the first thing you see is like a bunch of eels like just on it, he getting it. Then you see like other fish like come in and start eating it. And then you see like a bunch of like red crabs like come in, they picking it. And then you see other things like come and just breaking this thing down until it was a skeleton. And then you saw other things, crabs came back. It was just a skeleton. They were picking things up. And it was just them. It was like crabs came and then they left. And then it was just a skeleton. They came back. And it just always, I mean, even on land, when you see animals and everything just eats them, like you might see a lion or hyena or something, or a cheetah or any other predatory animal, like start eating something. And then when they're done, the vultures, come in and the jackals come in and descend upon it, or the honey badgers try to get pieces of it, stuff like that. And then they eat as much as they can, and especially like hyenas will fucking break bones and eat the whole damn bone and shit, because they can digest that. But and then you see the insects come in and they start just breaking that down, pretty much almost till it's just nothing. And then then it's out in the elements and it's breaking down from the elements as well. But it's interesting when you see something, just a circle of life, just everything just descending on this, and everything has evolved to either be with predators eating prey, and then you have scavengers eating after the prey, and then you got the insects eating after the scavengers. And then you got the elements breaking down everything else that didn't nobody want. Fear of the deep. It's like a little short film. Expo? You said it with love. Oh, he got Patreon. I wonder if this. Oh, okay, this is just his followers. I think that's it. Okay, good. Cause when I dropped that thing, I thought it might have knocked something out or messed something up. Because sometimes anything touches, like where my mic or camera is connected to, it can just uh, turn it off, or it'll interrupt it, so it'll cut off stuff, and then I don't know it's been cut off. But that was a good video. I like that. Very fear-inducing. Thank you for reminding me of my fear. I haven't been in an ocean or a lake or anything, or a body of water other than a tub in in years. So, thank you for that. Thank you for awakening that fear in me. No, that fear has never gone away, but yeah, just that it's just that like I think it's like an instinct where it's like I can't see. Cause like some people have that, some people don't. It's just like any other animal. Like you have some animals who are much more fearful, whether they predator or prey, than other animals of that same species or even different species. You can have an animal who is a predator has the size advantage and everything, but they are more apprehensive than another. I mean, you see that with lions, where you see a lion, a pride of lions go after a Cape buffalo. Some of them, like you'll see some, they'll take one down and they'll sit there, and like you say maybe they're braver than the other ones, but they'll sit there even though the herd is coming up to try to protect the buffalo they're taking down, and you see one or two just sitting there and like growling after trying to scare them off. But then the other ones will jump back and scatter, you know. Why this one's sitting, and then eventually they all move up because the Cape Buffalo keep pushing forward because they can. They look like they know they're afraid, but they know that we can kill you. So we're a little scared, but we ain't that scared, especially when there's a bunch of us. But yeah, I think it's like just it could be because like some people have, you know, uh, maybe it's evolution where you evolve to a point where you say you are more afraid of a particular thing than another group of people in a different area. Like you could say one like one group of people. They could then it's like then you could say, is it really evolution or more just a you're a product of your environment? Even though I mean I guess you could say that's evolution because people evolve to be in their environment to try to master it. But it's almost like I think it's more like a nature versus nurture type thing where it's like okay, you were raised in an environment like if you're in Africa and you're raised in an environment where you walk in areas where there are wild animals and you like there are lions and stuff like that. You see like I've seen African they be walking on these roads and you also see like wild lions on these roads or wild other rhinoceros or elephants or whatever have you, um, leopards and shit walking on these roads too or walking across them or whatever. And you can say these people are more. Oh, I didn't pause that. Damn it. Fuck. You say these people are more. They're more attuned to their environment. Like, cause like if I go there, I'm not attuned to that environment. I know of those things, but I've never lived there. I didn't grow up in that environment. Just like you live in like people in any country, like in a city, people live in a city and they know, okay, what to do and what not to do in a city. Somebody who lives in the suburbs or in a rural area or something like that coming in, they don't know this city. They might not know cities in general. Like, okay, well, you don't say this or do this or walk over there or do that or wear these colors or whatever. But you might go. It's the same thing. Like when I moved from Chicago to Mississippi, it was kind of a culture shock type thing where it's like how it was different living in a much more rural country place than it was living in a inner city, you know, and dealing with like a bunch of people packed together than people in a rural area more separate. I mean, in town, people were, I mean, even, I wouldn't say packed together because, like, in cities, people, it's a finite amount of space. So you have houses that are uniform. Every yard is the same length and stuff like that. But then you go to a rural area, even in Illinois, you go to a rural area. It's not just in the South. Anywhere outside of like a city or a suburb, uh, even in suburbs, where you have much more space. Like I got much more space here living in a suburb than people have living in Chicago. Like most people don't have like big yards in inner cities, in any most inner cities. You know, so because they have a finite amount of space, and it costs more money than in other places because they have a finite amount of space. So they're like, hey, you might have a bigger house, especially if you got a house of like 3 stories. That's why they build stuff higher in cities than you see in rural areas because they have so much space. So they said we got to build up rather than out. And then you got like a little small front yard and a little small backyard, you know. Or maybe if your house was there early, like I've seen that, where even when I was in Mississippi, in the town I lived in, when they built that town, they built the houses very similar to the houses that they have in inner cities, that they were close together. I mean, not as close as the inner city where it's like a little narrow path so you can walk from the front yard to the backyard, but it was still much more narrow than you normally see, and in like inside of a town because it was built more recent. I would say, or like it was probably built like in the 50s or the 60s or something like that. Where they were okay, we got this is the town we building out from here, and they want people to be able to walk from place to place. So they build neighborhoods in these towns. These houses are like uniform that the some of them have bigger yards than others because some people might have paid more to have a bigger yard than somebody else. So you might have 4 houses right next to each other. 3 have the same. You measured it; they have the same length of yard, and then this 4th house has like maybe a quarter more than the other houses. You know, especially than the size of the house. Some houses are bigger and they have more yard than like a smaller house. But that kind of just depends on who's in that house, how much money they had when they first had the house built and stuff like that. You know, and then like it's like a different thing to where if you had a town, they were just building houses, kind of like you see like a corporation like buy a whole plot of land and I'll build a whole neighborhood, and all the houses pretty much look uniform and a exact length from one another. And they're like, okay, move here, and then they kind of like own that and profit off that whole neighborhood because they built all the houses and the streets and all this stuff there. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk too much. That was good. I like that. I'm glad I looked at. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.